it's Karen Dunn-Swafford with Save Locomotive 202 and the Hub City chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. I'm here with Ann Aldrich of the Washington County Historical Trust. We're standing here on the porch of the Saylor House located at Kiwanis Park in Hagerstown, Maryland. And we're actually going to take a tour through the building today and find out some really interesting information on how it's expanded over time and the restoration and preservation processes of the historical trusts that have been going on for the last about decade.
2017 is when we
2017
started to work on it.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we'll be taking you on a tour and we'll see you on the inside. The small stone house in Hagerstown's Kiwanis Park, known as the Saylor House, has a long history. The house is a 1.5-story, 3-bay stone dwelling with a 1-story, 3-bay L extending to the rear or north. German immigrant Matthias Saylor purchased the land tract in 1768 and built a log cabin which is no longer existent on the property between 1779 and 1780. The existing stone house was built around 1797, probably by Matthias's son Peter Saylor.
Some members of the Historic Trust saw the house in 2015 and they said they needed to save it. 1797,
Okay.
we think.
Okay.
It doesn't have a date stone in it,
Okay.
but Matthias Saylor and Jonathan Hager were contemporaries here in the region.
Okay.
Matthias Saylor bought what he called Saylor's Delight, which was pieces of Fox Deceived and Locust Bottom, and developed, built the log house, developed the farm, passed the farm on to his son Peter. He became Peter Sr., but his son Peter, and when Magdalena and Matthias gave the farm to Peter, they moved to a house on Summit Avenue. Matthias passed away, and Peter Saylor and his mother sold that house in 1797. She disappeared from the census rolls, but she didn't die until 1805. So we think that the house was built probably for her as a residence.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, Peter Sr. may have moved in here when he gave Peter Jr. the farm. Peter Sr. was part of a group of men called the Antietam Fish Company that petitioned the Maryland legislature and got them to declare basically the first fish conservation law in 1824. That gave them the rights to manage the fish in the Antietam and spelled out who could fish and what the punishments were if you weren't to fish. And even probably brought in brown trout and things like that, stocked the Antietam.
The Washington County Historical Trust began to work with the city in 2015 to restore and repurpose the house to save this fine building example of early Hagerstown history.
These floorboards are black, and we think it's the original, one of the original typical colors of the period. And then this is the original paint here. This is kind of burnt red. And so when we paint it during the final restoration phase, we will match this with linseed oil paints and paint it.
Oh, very nice.
As best we can. And the other colors that we don't have, like the doors, we'll make sure they're period appropriate. But the windows are replicated from, and it's probably better if we climb onto the front porch. And you can tell by the weathering, especially over here, the weathering of the wood tells you that that's the original sash. And one of our members found a listing for large windows coming out of an 1860s, 1870s house that had the original glass. I think they were 2/2 versus 9/6s, but I drove up to about 2.5 hours north of here to pick up 40 sash with good old glass in it, and so that's what's in here. It's all. Those front windows, 3 of the sash, so each window has 2 sash, 9/6. 3 of the sash in those windows are original to 1797 to the house. No glass, and actually there were no muntins in the dividers, but we had some original muntins that we could take to the window maker and have them replicated. So everything that needed to be done in the house can be replicated from original woodwork. We're required and delighted to actually implement or comply with the Secretary of Interior's standards and guidelines for historic preservation.
Okay.
So we do that. Use historically appropriate materials, but at the same time, you know, sometimes you have to use modern materials, like wiring. You can't, there was no wiring in 1790s. Right. You know, we're trying to keep everything intact. You can see pieces of the original chair rail and baseboard over there. So everything, when we replace the woodwork, it will be milled and put together the same way. So we repair what we can. There's actually some original ceiling boards in the front porch. Ceiling, the rest of the porch is brand new and had to be built to current building standards, but it mimics what it would have looked like.
The newly renovated outside porch of the Saylor house takes a wonderful view of the Antietam Creek that passes by.
David Lyles, the developer, went to the city and donated the flood zone area to the city as Kiwanis Park.
The Saylor Farm Complex was part of a larger area developed as an industrial park in 2007. The developer gave a 17-acre parcel to the city of Hagerstown. This parcel has been made into the Kiwanis Park. It is the only city park with water access for recreational boating. Kiwanis Park has a public boat ramp on the Antietam Creek. The boat ramp is across the stream from where the Potomac Canal Company began building a canal over 200 years ago. The small limestone house still standing on the property has been a restoration project for the Washington County Historical Trust. The limestone house has a restored summer kitchen and breezeway that can act as a pavilion and are available as an event space by contacting the Washington County Historical Trust at info@wchistoricaltrust.org.
Never a kitchen with this building when it was built, because it was, if we're correct about it being a retirement home, the person living here, Magdalena, most likely, would have gone to the main farmhouse for meals.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because even though it had been abandoned in 1965, the house still stood strong because it must have been re-roofed in the late 50s or early 60s and had a good solid metal roof on it.
Okay.
Had some areas where it wasn't. Kids had broken in. You can see up through the holes. Somebody fell through the floor here.
Oh my.
But you can see all the
graffiti there.
The graffiti. You can see graffiti still in these rooms.
Years of graffiti and wear have taken their toll on the Saylor house. However, the Washington County Historical Trust is working to restore and repair the homestead.
And we actually found under the modern layer of soils, dirt, whatever you want to call it, they actually found a prehistoric artifact or feature that they're pretty sure is a stockade fence.
The city of Hagerstown designated the Saylor House as a city landmark in 2020, and the house and Kiwanis Park were incorporated into the heart of the Civil War Heritage Area in 2021. Washington County Historical Trust began to work with the city in 2015 to restore and repurpose the house to save this fine building example of early Hagerstown history. The trust has found remnants of all the original woodwork, which will allow accurate restoration of all the windows, doors, chair rails, and mantelpiece. You'll see that the Saylor House is currently under construction and will be getting a new floor in the coming weeks.
Back there are 2 or 3 different flooring patterns. This one is sort of wider, individually staggered boards. So it shows all the, or maybe, yeah, see that here, these two boards are here, and then it staggers 2, and then staggers 2. So we have to find replacement heart pine flooring that'll be remilled to this size, to the sizes we need. Have to be 12-foot lengths.
Yes.
I think the contractors finally found some. You know, they're remilled from beams from old factories and stuff, because you can't get heart pine in. So we ran a lime plaster workshop last year, and because we didn't have the money to replace the woodwork, we're currently raising the money to replace the woodwork.
Great. And how can people donate?
Oh, they can go to our website and donate.
Yeah, WashingtonCountyHistoricalTrust.org.
Correct. We're raising money to replace all the woodwork, replicate the interior. There are 3 interior doors that are missing. They'll be replicated based on the front door, which we have, the original front door. And we're going to rewire the house. We're putting on a major push to try and finish the restoration next year in celebration of the 250th anniversary of America.